Welcome to part 3 of making a cat stitch sweater. For parts 1 and 2, go up here. Last time we finished the sleeves up to the armpit. Now we're going to be working on the actual body of the sweater and hopefully getting to the shoulders today as well. So we have our bottom ribbing here, and we're going to be working the front and the back separately. So we're going to start just like we started the sleeves by taking the same color we used for our ribbing and casting on our base single crochets. So that is just getting ourselves tied on and then casting our stitches into the very top here. And once again, keep track of how many stitches you do so that you can do the exact same amount in the other half of the body. And remember, you want to start with multiples of 5 if at all possible. So I have cast on 80 stitches here for this bottom portion. And you are going to be working this in the exact same way that you worked the sleeves. So I switched over to my new color. I chained 3. Now I'm going to make my first double crochet. Then I'm going to do my shells throughout, skipping 4 stitches, doing a shell, skipping 4 stitches, and doing a shell. And then instead of bringing it together, I will just end on those 2 double crochets, flip my work, and go back and forth just like we did on the sleeves. So this is what we look like at the end of our first row. Like I said, I just ended in the 2 double crochets, and now all you have to do is flip your work. You're going to chain 3. You're going to do that first double crochet, and then you're going to continue your pattern just like you did with your sleeves, straight up until you get to the point where you want to start decreasing for your armpits. So I have worked my way all the way up until the point where I want my armpit to start. And what we're going to do is we're just going to bring the pattern in a little bit so we have a place for our sleeves to go. So I flipped my work, and instead of starting my next row here, I'm actually going to go in and start it over here. Even if you're working on an adult sweater, I actually wouldn't go in too much farther, because even on an adult sweater, the armpit part of it does not start that far in. So maybe here, but it really just depends on the size of your garment. So I'm going to go in the middle of this chain 1 where I usually put that shell, and we are going to do a quick fasten on chain, and then we're going to chain 2 more. So we have chained 3, and then we're going to do our double crochet, and this is the new start of our row. All of this will be space for our sleeve to go, and we're just going to put a shell into this next chain 1 like we usually would have, and continue our pattern on. And when you start to get to the end of that row, you're just going to stop it in the same point that you started it. So I am doing 1.5 cats inward. Instead of placing a shell here, I'm just going to place 2 double crochets, and this will be the new end of my row here. So I will flip it, do 3 chains, and continue my pattern up. And I'm going to continue my pattern up to the point where I want the back of the neck to go. So I'll stop it just short of where I want the top of the shoulders to go and show you what I do there. So I've worked up to the part where I want to start the back of my neckband, and I've marked that part off with stitch markers just so I know exactly where it's going to be going as I'm working. And I like to do this part after a row 3, so you have as many completed kitty cats as possible. So we're going to continue this row just like we usually would. You're just going to do some slip stitches at the neckband, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I have shelled up to my stitch marker, and now instead of continuing my shells, I'm just going to do slip stitches all the way through to the next stitch marker. So and you can just go right over the stitch marker if you have the ones that I do, because it'll just slide out. And yeah, just continue these all along till you get to your next stitch marker on the other side of the collar. So we are on the other side of our stitch marker, and we're just going to pick up doing our shells again until we get to the end of our row. So I finished this row. Now I am going to chain 3, and I'm going to repeat this last dark gray row the exact same way by doing my double crochet and then and then shelling across until I get to this point where I'm going to do my slip stitches and then continue my shell stitches till the end. So we have finished that row, and you can see where we have our little divot here, and as well as having finished off the last of the dark gray. So next we are going to do our third row, which is the cat leg rows with our extended double crochet clusters separately across our shoulders. So you're going to flip your work. You're going to do that line across here. You're going to cut your yarn, pick it back up again, and do them across here to finish your shoulders off. And when you're done, it's going to look just like that. So these are going to be the tops of your shoulders, and here is the back of your collar. So here is my finished back panel, and when I'm done, you're going to do it again. But I started the neck part, the front of the collar, just a little bit earlier in the pattern, so I had a lower front of my collar. So next thing I'm going to do is sew up the sides and the tops of the shoulders together so I can get a better idea of what my shoulder hole needs to be. So we have sewn all of our pieces together. If you follow me here on TikTok, you'll know I did it wrong the first time, but that's not important right now. Now we're gonna work on our shoulders. So these are actually a good fit size-wise. I think I'm gonna do like, let's see, probably like 1-2 rows of this just open, so I won't connect it anymore in the round. And then I might try attaching it and seeing how I want to attach it to the top. So I picked up the stitches in my sleeve again, and I worked it back and forth instead of in the round, tapering it slightly on this end here. Obviously, if you have a bigger shoulder hole, you're going to need to make a slightly longer section here. But because this is a blocky sweater, you don't really need to taper it too much. So now I'm just going to sew it into the shoulder hole that we made, and then we will weave in some of these ends before we work on the collar. So we wove in all of our ends, and gosh, does it feel so good. So now we're going to do a single crochet line around the neck so I can have something kind of neat and even to grab onto for our collar. And you're just going to do this the exact same way that you did it for the sleeves and for the bottom cuff. So we have our lovely little base single crochet around our collar, and now we're going to do our actual ribbed collar. So I have chained 3, and now I am going to do single crochets down that chain. Obviously you can do a wider collar if that is something that you're interested in. I find 3 works well for me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to anchor it in our base chain here. And then you're going to turn your work, and working on the front loop, you're going to go back up, and then you're going to chain 1, and you're going to turn it, and you're going to work on the front loop back down towards the collar. And then you're going to anchor it to your collar once again with a single crochet. And you're just going to work that all the way around to create your collar. It is so stinking cute, and it looks so stinking cute on her. So I'm just going to do the last couple end weaving in, and then I need to decorate all the cats for this one and the other one, and then I'll do a video of them side by side so you can compare the 2 styles. But I hope you enjoyed!